These are 4 guitar brands that experienced players already know and almost never talk about. And 3 of them will put a better instrument in your hands, under $400, than most guitarists get spending twice that amount. The 4th brand tells a more complicated story, and it ends somewhere nobody saw coming. Before the brands, what changed everything? Fender published a study in October 2021 conducted with YouGov across a sample of more than 10,000 people, and the number that came back stopped the industry cold. 7% of the American population between 13 and 64, roughly 16 million people, had started learning guitar in the previous 2 years, and 62% of them pointed directly to COVID and the lockdowns as the reason. 16 million new players. Most of them spent under $400 on their first guitar, and almost none of them knew what they were actually getting. But here's the thing, the guitar industry has been quietly getting something right for 2 decades, and most buyers still haven't caught up to it. CNC machining, the computer-controlled manufacturing process that became standard in guitar production around the early 2000s, remade the under $400 market in ways that rarely show up in buyer guides. Tolerances got tighter, frets leveled more consistently, neck joints stopped being a roll of the dice. The factories in Korea, Indonesia, and China that build most of the world's affordable guitars matured into operations that experienced players now take seriously. And the result is that a budget guitar built today routinely outplays a mid-priced guitar from 1990. The problem was never the manufacturing. The problem was the marketing. Brands that pour money into advertising dominate shelf space, YouTube recommendations, and beginner gear lists. Brands that pour money into the instrument tend to stay quiet. Their customers already know, and experienced players rarely feel the need to explain themselves. Before the 4 brands, 2 things every buyer needs to understand. First, setup. A $50 to $80 professional setup, fret ends filed smooth, nut slots cut correctly, action and intonation dialed in, does more for playability than switching to a more expensive brand. Budget guitars often ship with rough fret ends and nut slots that haven't been finished properly. The bones are good, the finishing work isn't always there. A setup addresses that. Second, the nut. Cheap plastic nuts cause tuning problems that no tuner upgrade can fix. Every guitar in this video uses either bone or quality synthetic nut material, and that detail matters more than most buyers realize. Brand number 1, Eastman PCH. Chia Ni founded Eastman in 1992 as Eastman Strings, built on violins, violas, and cellos constructed using traditional violin shop hand methods, the same way instrument makers had worked for centuries, with a bandsaw as the most common power tool in the building. A flutist and Boston University School of Music graduate, Ni brought that framework to Beijing and built a company around it, which meant that when the guitars arrived, arch tops in 2002 and flat tops in 2008, they came out of a factory trained in a discipline that most guitar manufacturers have never touched. The PCH series sits at the entry level of that tradition, and the numbers on it are worth stating plainly. The PCH-1 retails for $299. The PCH-1 GAC, the cutaway acoustic electric version carrying an Eastman-voiced Fishman pickup, retails for $329. At $329, what arrives in the box is a hand-built acoustic guitar with a solid Sitka spruce top and a bone nut cut to 1/18 inches. The back and sides are laminated sapele, which is honest construction at this price. And none of the competitors building at this level are matching the combination of a solid top with a bone nut in a hand-built instrument. The distinction between solid and laminate tops is worth a moment here. A laminate top is veneered plywood, cheaper, more humidity resistant, consistent in a compressed kind of way, and completely static. A solid top resonates differently at every frequency, responds to how hard or soft you play, and over years of being played, it opens up, the wood fibers loosening and aligning in ways that make the instrument louder and more complex with age. A solid top guitar built today sounds better in 20 years. A laminate guitar sounds the same on day 1 as it does on day 5,000. That's what the $329 Eastman PCH gives you. Eastman's own product manager, Pepin Hart, put it this way in Guitar World: "We have redone the golden age of guitar building." None of that is modest language, but at $329 with a solid spruce top, a bone nut, and hands-on construction from craftspeople trained in a violin-making tradition, it isn't entirely without foundation either. Brand number 2, Yamaha Pacifica 112V. Yamaha's Los Angeles R&D team, led by a designer who had previously worked at Ibanez, developed the Pacifica line and brought it to market in 1990, with the 112 model arriving in 1993. More than 30 years later, the 112V is still in production, still landing on recommended lists from guitar teachers and experienced players, and still representing the answer to a problem most manufacturers haven't solved at this price. That problem is consistency, and Yamaha solved it by building around better materials than the competition. The 112V carries a solid Alder body, not basswood, not agathis, and Alder is the same bodywood Fender used in the classic Stratocasters and Telecasters of the 1950s and 1960s. At $300 to $350, most competitors at this level hand you basswood or agathis. The Yamaha gives you Alder, and the tonal difference is not subtle. The pickup layout is HSS, with a humbucker at the bridge and two single coils in the middle and neck positions, and built into the tone control is a push-pull coil split that opens up single coil tones from the bridge humbucker, a versatility feature that regularly shows up on guitars at twice this price. Alnico V pickups throughout, not ceramic budget units, and a vintage-style tremolo on a 25.5-inch scale neck with 22 frets. None of those individual specs are unusual on their own. What's unusual is that they show up together in a guitar that ships with the kind of quality control consistency that reviewers have described the same way for 30 consecutive years. Music Radar's verdict: not only the perfect startup guitar for the serious student, but also a solid, reliable choice whatever your age or ability. Whatever your age or ability. For the audience of this video, that sentence is the one that matters. Yamaha has been building instruments since 1887, and the institutional weight behind that history shows up in the Pacifica 112V as a guitar you don't outgrow. The coil split handles clean single coil territory for jazz and blues, the bridge humbucker manages rock, and the Alder body provides the resonance and clarity that cheaper bodywoods trade away for cost savings. At $300 to $350, it remains one of the most honest answers to the under $400 problem the electric guitar market has ever produced. Brand number 3, Godin. Robert Godin started building guitars in Quebec in 1972, and the first Seagull instruments came out of La Patria, a village of roughly 475 people in the Quebec Eastern Townships, where approximately half the residents build guitars. In 1982, the Godin brand grew from that same family of companies, all of them organized around one principle that has held for 50 years: build the guitar in North America, use North American wood, and don't outsource the standard. Every Godin guitar is made in North America. Necks and bodies come out of La Patrie. Final assembly happens in Quebec, and the company's own figures place production at roughly 2,000 instruments per week across 6 brands: Godin, Seagull, Simon & Patrick, Art & Lutherie, Norman, and La Patrie, with distribution reaching more than 65 countries and a workforce of approximately 400 people. That scale of North American instrument production has no real equivalent in this price neighborhood. The Fifth Avenue Archtop arrived in 2008, and it's the guitar this section centers on, which requires an honest accounting of where the price sits today. Most Fifth Avenue models now land above $400 new. Premier Guitar reviewed the Kingpin, the P90 single pickup version, in 2009 at a street price between $700 and $870, and it now lists above $1,000. The path to a Godin under $400 is the used market, and that path is worth taking. A clean used Godin Fifth Avenue under $400 delivers a fully hollow archtop, built entirely in Canada, with a carved spruce top, maple back and sides, a silver leaf maple neck, and a rosewood fingerboard. A guitar with genuine acoustic resonance that sounds like something in a room before it ever touches an amplifier. The construction doesn't put it alongside a Collings or a boutique archtop, but it's North American built, genuinely hollow, and it carries the weight of 50 years of Quebec guitar making. Robert Godin's sons, Simon and Patrick, took over the company following a leadership transition in 2019, and the philosophy that built Seagull and Godin through 5 decades remained unchanged. Players like Tosin Abassi, Alex Lifeson, Steve Stevens, Robert Trujillo, and Hans Zimmer have played Godin instruments, players known for being particular about what they hold. A used Godin Fifth Avenue under $400 is one of the most honest instruments available at that price. It was made in Quebec by people who have been doing this longer than most of the competing factories have existed. Brand number 4, G&L. Leo Fender, George Fullerton, and Dale Hyatt founded G&L in 1980 in Fullerton, California. George and Leo, which is what the name means. And Leo Fender said something about what they built there that wasn't marketing language. The G&L instruments were the best instruments I have ever made. Not the best Fenders, not the best guitars from before CBS. The best instruments he had ever made, period. And he said it before he died in 1991. The Tribute series came along in 2003 as the import entry to the G&L world, built originally in Korea and later at a court facility in Indonesia, carrying street prices on the Legacy and ASAT Classic models that run roughly $400 to $550, with used examples landing lower. And here's the thing that makes the Tribute worth knowing about, separately from every other import guitar at this price. The pickups are American-made. G&L's magnetic field design pickups, the MFD units built at the Fullerton facility, go into Tribute guitars the same as they go into the American instruments, costing twice as much. The Tribute series gets USA-made electronics designed by Leo Fender, alongside G&L's own bridge hardware, carried over from the domestic line. No other import guitar at this price makes that claim. The ASAT Classic carries the T-style lineage directly from the man who designed the Telecaster, representing his final evolution of that concept after 40 more years of experience and no corporate constraints on where he took it. The Legacy does the same for the S-style format. Jerry Cantrell of Alice in Chains has played G&L guitars throughout his career, including a Tribute signature model. Tom Hamilton of Aerosmith, Carl Perkins played a G&L that Leo Fender gave him personally. But none of that matters unless you can actually buy one, and that's where this section takes a turn. In late September 2025, according to Guitar World's reporting and former G&L employee Steve Arojo on the bass hang, the factory furloughed its workforce and then let everyone go. No more factory workers, no more American production. In October 2025, parent company BBE terminated its corporate status in California, and Fender filed a USPTO trademark application for the Leo Fender name around the same time. What this means for the Tribute series, for Indonesian production, for whether new G&L instruments will reach dealers, remained unresolved at the time this was written. Used examples exist in abundance and remain everything they were when they left the factory. New old stock at dealers may still be available. A clean used G&L Tribute is Leo Fender's final design language in a format that put his best pickup work inside a guitar you could afford. And that is worth knowing about now in 2026, precisely because the company that built them appears to have ended. What these 4 brands share, Eastman, Yamaha, Pacifica, Godin, and G&L Tribute don't share a country of origin, a construction method, or even the same type of instrument. What connects them is simpler than that. Each one represents a manufacturer who put the budget into the guitar rather than the campaign. Eastman trained violin makers to build acoustics by hand. Yamaha applied decades of instrument engineering to produce an Alder body electric with Alnico V pickups and a coil split at $300. Godin built guitars in Quebec for 50 years and held the line on North American production when every economic signal pointed elsewhere. G&L placed American-made MFD pickups inside a $400 Indonesian guitar because the pickup was where the guitar's voice lived, and the company knew it. None of those decisions generate Instagram impressions. None of them show up in sponsored placements or pre-roll ads. They show up in the guitar you pick up a year after buying it, and then 2 years after that, and you realize it still sounds better than you expected and still does exactly what it did on day one. That's what under $400 gets you when the money goes into the right places. Get a setup. $50 to $80 at a local tech, frets leveled, nut cut properly, action and intonation set. Every guitar in this video deserves it, and the setup will do more for your playing than anything else you could spend that money on. If you own one of these guitars, or if you know a brand at this price that belongs on this list, drop it in the comments. This channel follows the instrument, not the marketing. Subscribe if you haven't yet. We measure quality, not trends.